Today to talk about the 2022 HACR Young Hispanic Corporate Achievers Program. In this session, we'll review a little bit about the program, how it's changed or how it's been re-envisioned for the 2022 curriculum year, and what those changes represent. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Great. So as I said, that we will talk a little bit about the program. We will talk about HACR, about the program, how the two connect, the timeline for this nomination window, the eligibility of the participants when you're thinking about who from your companies could participate in HACR's YHCA program, the application itself, and we will have time at the end for Q&A. So in the interim, between now and the Q&A, I would ask you to, if you have a question that comes up, pop it in the chat. We will most likely get to it at the end. But I don't want you to forget it. So feel free to put it in there and we will be sure to come back to it during the Q&A. If anything does come up that's urgent, you can also put it in the chat. And if we have to address it ahead of time, we will. Thank you. Next slide. Great. So who is HACR? For many of you know us already, but in case this is your first time learning about the Young Hispanic Corporate Achievers Program, HACR is the Hispanic Association on Corporate Responsibility. And we were founded in 1986, and we are one of the oldest and maybe the most influential advocacy organization in the nation regarding Hispanic inclusion in corporate America specifically. We are part of a coalition of many organizations that focus on Hispanic inclusion for very, very different perspectives. And ours is specific to the corporate sector and the culture and leadership employment within that sector. Our mission, our theory of change is really predicated on 4 pillars of inclusion. One is employment, which is where the HACR Young Hispanic Corporate Achievers Program really fits in. One is procurement, which is really about the supplier and diversity and the supplier pipeline. One is philanthropy, which is about corporate philanthropy and community investments and how many of those corporate investments actually are invested in the Latinx communities across the country, and then governance. And that's about leadership at the uppermost level of our corporate sector and our corporate board of directors. Next page. So what is HACR's YHCA? Well, the HACR YHCA program stands for our Young Hispanic Corporate Achievers Program, and it was founded in 2007. It's really designed to recognize and support the Latinx leaders in your organizations that have demonstrated a high leadership capacity and high leadership potential. We are here to convene a community around these individuals, to invest in them, to provide thoughtful and relevant leadership advancement skills, as well as complement them and help them relate to not just their workplace leadership, but their community leadership as well. Candidates are nominated by their companies. The individuals can't actually apply on their own. They have to be nominated by their corporate leadership. And in that nomination process, you are effectively lifting this person up as an example of the candidate, the type of person you want in your pipeline for your companies going forward. To date, we've had over 400 YHCA alum from an array of industries. The membership, this program is open to not only HACR corporate members, but non-members. And between the two, we really do have a wide array of industries represented. So we've had over 400 alumni to date. And the companies include Fortune 500 companies from, as I said, across any sector. Next page. So I think what I would like to do, instead of telling you all about the program, which will kind of what it is and what it means to people, I think it's best to hear it from the alumni themselves. So we will play a brief video that hope to give you a sense of the program.
We're working to cultivate our young Hispanic corporate achievers, future emerging executive leaders, to be able to rise up the corporate ladder. We know that in addition to communicating with corporate America, advocating to corporate America, and calling for more Hispanic representation at all levels of their company, we also know that we want to be part of the solution by supporting the advancement of Hispanics rising up within the corporate ladder.
My name is Violeta Perez and I am with Intel. It's just amazing to be in a group of professional, successful Latinos that are also sharing in the same paths, the same journeys, and also the same struggles. So it's been inspirational to see some of the things people have done in this group and what we can do together.
I didn't know what to expect when I came. I've only heard about the organization, that it's amazing, but I came here and I found not only very thoughtful content and amazing mentors, but a group of people, a group of friends now that I can count on.
So we're very proud of the fact that we have managed to successfully move leaders up the corporate ladder from young Hispanic corporate achievers to CEO levels.
When you were telling me today it was the first class?
This is you were the first class.
You were the first class.
Yes.
So look, it was great for me, particularly as we've seen the Latino community expand. Our leaders, not of the Latino community, our leaders of the United States are going to come out of our community. So the more we can do to make sure that we support them and nurture them and accelerate their growth, I think we're all going to benefit from it.
While we're bringing many Hispanic leaders and executives together, we know that when they go back to their corporations and into departments and divisions, they may be one of very few, possibly even the only Hispanic at their companies. And so we want to be sure that we're giving them all the tools and the expertise and the knowledge and the inspiration so that they can be outstanding representatives for Hispanics at their companies and being champions for Hispanics so that the next generation of Hispanic leaders can look to them as role models as they look to move up as well.
Thank you. So our CEO, Sid Wilson, said it best, where this really is about supporting leadership. And this is HACR's direct investment in our employment pillar. So we advocate and we partner with our membership companies on many other initiatives around employment and increasing the number of Hispanics in different employment pipelines across our corporate membership. This program is one that is a direct initiative where we say we will reinvest. So not only are we helping you kind of across your platforms and across your workplace, but we want to target specifically these rising leaders. And we are happy and thrilled to do it. This is always an amazing group of people, and I hope you got that sense from the video. So the other piece about this program is that it constantly evolves. And so it started in 2007. The most notable, most recent, of course, pivot in 2020, like everybody else, we really had to re-envision this program in a virtual context. Last year's program was 100% virtual. And in that space, we also weren't just thinking about the format of delivery, but also the content of delivery. So the combined two experiences have resulted in the 22 curriculum, which is a real reflection of creativity, thoughtful leadership on what we know that our Latinx leaders and what any corporate leader is going to need for the future. Our curriculum in that respect has evolved. And so here are some of the topics that we plan on focusing on in 2022. And we hope when you look at this list, you also see the skill sets, the perspectives, the areas of development that you know as people in your companies are supporting leadership pipelines of your firm. But these are what you need your leaders to have. This is what you want them to have. And all of this curriculum, of course, is provided within the context of the Latinx identity, knowing that there's a community of people who are, as one of the participants said in the video, going through, have the same goals, going through, have the same opportunities, and experiencing some of the same challenges. So how do we rally together and support each other as we continue to excel over the careers across industries and across companies? So in addition to revisiting and re-envisioning and invigorating the curriculum, we've also changed the format for 2022. And this is a pretty big deal in the space where everybody is trying to figure out what hybrid means. For HACR, we have designed the YHCA program in this hybrid context where we'll have, for the first 8 weeks, will be virtual. And then we'll have an in-person component of 3 days in alignment with our executive programs conference. And that will be in person. And so really our cohort is really going to be able to benefit from what we have, the successes that have come out of everybody's virtual pivot and what is the content that's best delivered in that format. And we can use our in-person time to really develop those relationships, to focus on those management skills that come best from the in-person interpersonal training opportunities. The other thing that I would mention is that for the first time, we are expanding the HACR YHCA program. And so normally we have one cohort of between 40 and 50 people. We have the capacity to expand it this year. So we're hoping that we will be able to, we always have more nominations, frankly, that we can accept. And we're expecting to be able to double the number of people that we accept into our program under this new structure. So we're really looking forward to that and see that again as us kind of doubling our investment in this employment pipeline program. Next slide, please. Great. So in the materials that you received, and we're reviewing them here, we've also set out the dates for the program. And you can see that these dates are set in advance so that you can anticipate them and you can plan for them and you can review them with the candidates that you're considering nominating. We will go through this in more detail, but what I will say is that because these dates have been shared in advance, there's full expectation that any participant that gets selected is able to commit to attending all of these sessions, both the virtual and the in-person. The other thing I would note is that, like in the previous year, there is a fee to this program for the 2022 program fee. If you're a corporate member of HACR, it'll be $3,100 per participant. And if you're a non-corporate member, it'll be $4,900 per participant. Next slide, please. Great. The other piece of this program that I know that all the participants love is not just the training and not just the interpersonal relationships, but really the opportunity to be celebrated and to be recognized. In order to do that, we host an award ceremony at the conclusion of every HACR YHCA program. The next year's, the 2022 award ceremony will be on June 8th at the end of our executive programs conference. And this is where we invite not just the participants, but leadership from the companies that nominated them, their colleagues, their family, and their friends. We also work with corporations to support them in the public media. So we release a press release announcing them to the general public, and we have press kits that our companies can use to celebrate them internally, either with your ERG groups or other internal communication channels. This is of particular importance. I would say, we all know that part of being recognized as a leader on the pipeline, a leadership position for advancement, is being seen. And that can be a challenge a lot of times for people of color and companies. And so this is a real part of how we invest and conclude this program, is making sure that each and every individual who is nominated, who completes this challenging yet thoughtful initiative, also has the opportunity to be recognized and seen by their mentors, by sponsors, and any other stakeholder in your companies. Next slide. So on a previous slide, I showed you some of the content that we're focusing on in 2022. I will say that regardless of the sessions and the modules and the themes, there's a cycle that we really try to design around. And that's looking at every individual and from the perspective of what will enhance their individual professional development needs, what will enhance their professional development needs in your workplaces, and what's going to enhance them as leaders in the community, both addressing the social issues and their passions, and being an example for others to follow in their footsteps. So if you think about this as a cycle, our curriculum also follows this cycle, and it's one of the things that really leads to, frankly, what every alumni that I've spoken to date has really bonded around, is that when you come through the HACR YHCA program, a participant feels like they have a new familia. They have a familia within HACR, they have a familia within their cohort participants, their co-participants, and within the entire alumni network, of which, as we said, is over 400 people at this point. It's quite a dynamic, and it's quite a show of support when our participants realize that they are now a part of this, and like any other family, have this network to draw upon and to lean on. There are multiple opportunities for interpersonal connection. There's multiple opportunities for kind of perspective on one's own leadership advancement, both individual roles and kind of strategy and larger context roles within the company. And of course, it's an opportunity to refine the skills that they currently use. We will get to eligibility criteria. Thank you. Don't worry. Next slide. So I will mention before we get into the details of the application process in terms of roles and responsibilities, the company as the nominator has a very specific role as well. I'm going to be clear about that. So when you nominate an individual, the company is also agreeing to, if an individual gets selected, to pay the cost of their registration fee, their program fee, to cover the cost of the travel and lodging for their full participation in the program, and to really work with the managers to protect the time on the nominee's calendar so that they have the space to participate and focus on the curriculum as it's being delivered. Next slide. And then, excuse me, next, thank you. And then in terms of participants, they also have a core set of responsibilities. It's not to go unmentioned. And so we do expect them to, as we said, attend each and every session, both the virtual and the in-person. We are expected to attend 100% of the program to receive the award at the end of the year or the end of the program in June. If they do have dates around it, the policy is designed that way. If you do have unexpected conflicts, of course, they can be addressed. But you should keep your supervisor informed of your schedule in advance, and so they can really manage any anticipated potential conflicts ahead of the schedule. This coursework is designed to mold the next C-suite leader, and of course, it's all about the work that a participant puts into the program. And so what you put in is what they put in is what they get out, and that's a very important piece of the puzzle as well. And of course, this is a safe space for development, so we expect them to participate in that space and protect that space for themselves and their colleagues. And with that, I will switch it to Stephanie, who's going to really walk us through the timeline and some of the details of this year's application. Thank you.
Yes. So great, let's talk about the timeline. So right now we have the nomination window currently open. No cost is associated with submitting your nomination. Each company can submit up to 3 nominations per company. If you have any questions throughout the timeline, we're here to answer any real-time questions. And so we encourage you to reach out to us, email us, call us. We really want to be really accessible throughout the timeline, but especially during the nomination window. And for the registration window, finalists will receive a link that secures that confirms their time during the program, but also that's the time that they will be submitting payment. They can make a direct payment. We can also provide an invoice to the company. We are really here designed to be flexible with the company. Next slide. So who are these individuals? These are the individuals that we want them to succeed. We want them to be in this program. And so as you're thinking of these individuals, really think of if they are participating a lot, leadership in their company as well as their community as well. They may be under the radar, but really this is their time to spotlight them. This is a time where the companies step in and nominate them because they see them as executives in 5 to 7 years. And so the ages are between 25 to 40 when they are at the time they receive their award, June 8th. And HACR uses the Office of Personnel Management OPM definition for Hispanic. And again, each company can submit up to 3 nominations. Next slide. So this is a 2021 HACR YHCA infographic. And each class is different. They're all unique. And as you can see, I just want to highlight the budget management and employee management. As you can see, they're pretty much thirds. So they all learn from each other. Each cohort, they learn from each other, they grow together. And this is just an example of the different types of qualities they bring. And again, they all learn from each other. Next slide. Great, so We're getting closer to the end. So if you haven't submitted your questions, we encourage you to submit them now. We will be taking some time and answering questions, going over things. And these are some of the questions that often get overlooked. So they're right here, and we really want to focus on that because depending on the company, some companies submit the application on behalf of the nominee, others allow their nominee to submit their own application. But I really want to focus on these questions because it's a total number of years in the workforce, largest number of employees managed. And again, this is really a 5-year reflection. We really want the nominees to sit with themselves, to really think about all the great work they've done in the past 5 years. And something new and exciting that we have is our open responses. And so nominees now have the opportunity to submit open responses. We have 4, and we encourage them to really, again, not only sit with themselves to reflect on the work they've done, but really to submit any open responses that they would like, as we do not accept resumes or recommendation letters because the application is so extensive. So a pro tip that we want to share is to fill out the sample application. We're very transparent. We provide the sample application. So what you see on the sample application is the application. And that allows everyone to really reflect and really copy paste at the time that they're ready to submit the application. We also encourage Chrome or Microsoft Edge. And also don't use the back and forth arrows on your browser window. There is a button for you to continue on the application. And so we also want to make sure that you check your company's security wall for application access. And so some companies have very strict firewalls. And so if you are outside of your company network, then you can access it. And we definitely encourage you to check that before you are looking at the application. And as well as the signature page. The signature page is a required document, and I will go into detail in the next slide. Next. All right, so the signature page. So this is a required document that you will be submitting at the time of the application. So you'll have company name, nominee's full name, and the information that will have signatures. So you'll have the nominator's information, the CEO, EVP, SVP of HR, or the Chief Diversity Officer needs to sign off this document, the point of contact, and would you like the nominee to be notified directly? This is such an important part of the application of the signature page, because if you choose to notify the nominee of their application status, of if they've been a finalist, if they've been selected, then we will notify them directly. And so just depends on each company how they would like to manage, but this, I definitely want to point this out as we do look at this when notifying them. And again, this is a required document, and you will need to upload this at the time of the application. If this isn't uploaded or the proper signatures aren't provided, then your nominee will not be considered. Okay, next slide. Excellent. And so now Sylvia and I would like to open the floor to questions. And Sylvia.
Great. So I've been answering some of the questions in the Q&A while Stephanie was going through the program, and there are also some here in the chat. So Stephanie, one of the first questions that we have in the Q&A section is, is this program for US-based employees, or could it include nominations located outside of the US but working for a US-based company?
Excellent question. So you must be US-based employee. So if you are a US-based employee and you are living in the US, then you can participate.
Thank you. Could you expand on the mechanics of the virtual modules? Are these interactive workshops with all participants, or are they self-paced online training? Yes, happy to expand on that. The online modules are facilitated sessions with expert trainers that HACR brings into the program. And so these are dedicated times, usually averaging about 2 hours, and they're followed by small group facilitated small group breakout sessions as well. So you think about the virtual model as being two components, both the actual training and then a breakout kind of deep dive into that training and into the applying that training as a group. Does that answer your question? And as you respond to that question, I'll say, okay, great, thank you. It says, do you have to be a corporate member to nominate people?
You can be a corporate member or from a Fortune 500 company. And so we do have our list. If you're curious if your company is a corporate member, you can go to our website, HACR.org, and check if your company is a HACR corporate member.
Can you share eligibility criteria specifically? We are a global company. Does this include Latinos from Brazil, Spain, etc.? So I see that question. I just want to point out also in the chat is a link to the OPM governmental definition of Hispanic, which does include Brazilian. But Stephanie, is there anything you'd like to add to that? We did go over the nomination piece too.
Yeah, no, we definitely adopt the OPM definition, as Celia mentioned. And so we have proud Brazilian alum. And again, this cohort, each cohort is unique. And so it's very interesting to see the different backgrounds that they have.
Great. Let's see. Following up on the virtual training module, can you speak to the time commitment? I know it's spread out over 8 weeks. What is the actual time commitment during business hours during each of those days? Is it a full 8-hour day or a half day? So it's not a full day, I can tell you that much. between the training component and the facilitated breakout groups, in total, we're talking about 3 to 4 hours. And those are usually split between 2 days. So one day would be the training, which I said is about 2 to 3 hours, depending on the module. And then the facilitated breakout group is typically between 1 and 2 hours, depending on the activities connected to the module. And they will all take place on the dates that we have indicated in the nomination guideline. Let's see. If you submit a nomination, I hope that answers your question. If not, please, I'm happy to do a follow-up. Just put it in the chat or in the Q&A. If you submit a nomination, when would you find out if your person was selected? Also, will this be recording shared as I joined a little late? Stephanie?
Yes, no problem. So yes, this will be shared. We will be sharing this recording in our upcoming newsletter. So stay tuned for that. You'll be receiving that in your inbox. And yes, so the finalists will be notified November 18th. And so that's when everyone will know if they will be moving forward with the program. We do have the nomination window currently open right now until September 30th. Just want to remind everyone.
And so we encourage everybody, the nomination packet that you see when you review the application, it's quite extensive. It does involve obtaining a lot of information from the nominee. And as Stephanie said, for that reason, sometimes companies ask the nominee to fill it out first, and then they'll submit the application on their behalf. Some companies prefer to do the entire application on their own. But either way, it is quite a lot of work, and that's because it's competitive. And so when we talk about the November 8th timeframe, that's in light of a 3-month nomination window to give companies enough time to really deep dive, to look at your talent pools, identify the candidates you want to lift up, work with them, make sure that they're available on the dates indicated, make sure that you have the information that you need to complete the application. And then once that's all submitted, the HACR goes through a very extensive review process to make sure that through it as a competitive process to really evaluate all the different candidates. And I have to tell you that we always get more than we can accept, and we always wish we could accept more. We are thrilled this year that we are doubling our capacity. It's a huge opportunity both for us and for any corporate partner who wants to work with us on this program for your talent. So I really would encourage you to participate. in the nomination process, because it's our goal to get as many people as we can into this program.
Yes.
Any other questions today? We have lots of time. We don't have to use it all, but I want to make sure that we do answer all of your questions. And I would say that Stephanie included our contact information here. It's important. We do know that this is a lot of details, and we are here to help you. You can reach out via email. We will respond. We can set up a call if that's what you need, or we can respond to individual questions. We are available as needed, so please do not hesitate as you get into this work, and to like kind of raise your hand and let us know that you may need some clarification or some additional help to move through your nomination packet.
Just a reminder, each company can submit up to 3 nominations. And so as you are thinking of your top talent for this cohort, you know, as you're making that decision, you do have 3. And so again, just really, I encourage you, just like Sylvia said, to contact us and let's talk about it. If you have any questions specifically about the application or the commitment, I mean, please, we're here to answer any questions.
Yes. Thank you. And I would say many of the companies on the call today have alumni who have already been through this program, and they're a significant asset, both in understanding more about the program, but also the value of the ROI and how it's impacted them. And we make a very intentional effort of incorporating the alumni into the curriculum as well, not to focus on their experience in the program actually, but to focus on what they've done after the program and how your network develops and expands after you complete this initiative. So here's that question. Can you expand on the open responses? Is the intent of leadership strengths and opportunities for growth questions to be recommendation letters from third parties, whereas the statement of purpose and key components of leadership question are meant to be personal essays from the nominee? So let's see. Okay, so I will answer that. So the intent of the open question is to really give the nominee a chance to display and communicate some of their perspective on leadership. Neither one is intended to be a recommendation letter. It's really about as the nominee on behalf of the, as the nominator on behalf of the nominee, where do you think that this person has room to grow and develop, so we can utilize that information as we figure out some of the customized opportunities in the development in the curriculum. And then their statement of purpose is, again, it's about their leadership perspective. There's no right or wrong answer. It's to help us understand each candidate and to help us create the program best suited for the particulars of the candidates that get accepted to the final selection. If that doesn't answer your question, feel free to add a follow-up. The next question, can you provide an estimate for the typical expenses for both individuals and companies? So their program fee, as we said before, there's one that's not an estimate, it's a flat fee, and it's differentiated between members and non-members. Membership companies have a registration fee per participant of $3,100. Non-member companies have a participant registration fee of $4,900. The travel expenses that depend on where you're coming from, but it will includes hotel and related travel, airfare, Ubers, what have you. The in-person program will be in Los Angeles. And so those fees will be dependent on kind of where your participant is coming from. Let's see, we have some questions in the Q&A. If we meet all the requirements under the review, do we automatically get selected? Or what is the limit of allowed participants? Stephanie?
Yeah, great question. So the eligibility, that's one part of it. So if you are eligible for this program, then you are submitted, you submit an application. So really each cohort, as I mentioned, is unique and they are different. And so really you're competing against everyone else who has submitted an application. We don't have a formula or anything of who makes it or not, because every cohort is unique. And so we look at the education, we look at the community service, the leadership involvement. And so the application, because it's so extensive, you are competing with the other members of the cohort. So every pool is different. I hope that answers your question. And one thing I also wanted to point out is that within the signature page, I would encourage companies to get that started as soon as you've identified your top talent, to get that signature page started, because I know with the busy schedules and everything, it's really hard to get your CEO's signature, for example. And so definitely get that started. So by the time your nominee is ready to submit, or when you are ready to submit on behalf of your company, then that's already ready to go. So that was another pro tip.
Any other questions? These have been great so far. Thank you so much.
These have been great.
Good. What is the limit of participants allowed? So as we said, we have every average cohort is between 40 and 50 people. And at this point, we've doubled our capacity for this program. So we are anticipating up to about 100 people. It's not a firm number, but that's what we're hoping to achieve through the nominations this year. And that 100 people will be divided into 2 cohorts, and they'll go through the program as cohorts to be reunited as one group in Los Angeles. Great, thank you.
And another question that I got was going back to that, if you are working abroad or anything, because we are still virtual, if you are working abroad, but you are US based, then if you are at your company's expense because you are working abroad, then your company would cover that expense, any hotel and lodging, as Sylvia mentioned. But if you, so when you come in person, then you would make that trip back to the US. But if you are US based employee, then you can still apply, regardless if you are currently right now abroad, because you're in a virtual setting.
And we will say we've had candidates that were US based, they were both physically working here and obviously for US based company, and they get accepted. And then when the time the program starts, they've been relocated. That's not a surprise because these are your top talent, right? And so we know that they are in high demand, and this is not in any means meant to stand in the way of anybody's career advancement. So if that happens, it does, you know, logistically, it's a little bit maybe more challenging with time zones, but participants have done it. And that's one of the benefits of being able to move into this hybrid structure, is that we really are able to accommodate people across time zones in a very different way. Any other questions? These have all been really great so far. And as I said, I'll reiterate, I think I put it in the chat, that all the resources that you received in the email that went out this morning are also on our website. I believe I put the link on the website, but I can put it again here for those who are mostly working in the chat instead of the Q&A. But please reference them because they're there for you. And if anything is not clear, we are here to help answer your questions.
And also, if you have, if we didn't go into detail in some of the things, please let us know. We're happy to have another informational just about, you know, the topic that you would like to go into detail. So drop us those topics in the chat if you would like us to cover that in any future webinars. And again, if you have any questions, we're here to answer them. So again, the nomination window is open until September 30th. And so we do encourage each company to start identifying your top talent. Each company identifies them differently. And so that is completely up to the company. But please make sure to have those identified and have those applications submitted by September 30th with the signature page. It is a required document. That just means that your company wants you. And so great, because we want you. So please make sure to have those at the time the application is submitted.
Great. I think we have one more question. So can you nominate yourself? I am the CEO of my company. Well, first of all, glad to hear that. And second of all, yes, I think that would qualify. You are the CEO of your company.
So again, if you are
So glad that
HACR,
you're interested.
So-
I will say, I mean, this is you're a member company or Fortune 500 company. So as long as that also is true, we would love for you to apply.
excellent. And when you submit your application, please keep a copy for your own records. It's always good to have. Our system will have your application, but just in case, we do encourage you to download your application. That is a feature at the end of your application. So just want to make sure everyone does that, whether it's the nominee or whether it's a member of your company who's submitting on your behalf. Great.
One more question. So, have you benchmarked this program with McKinsey's Black Leadership Academy curriculum? They are planning an Hispanic Leadership Academy in 2022 as well. So I would say we are aware of that program, but we have not done a formal benchmarking initiative. I would say that this program, as we said, started in 2007. We have a deep history in this space, not only in HACR's YHCA program, but also across our 4 pillars, across our partnerships with our members. And so while we welcome other people's investment in the Hispanic leadership, as anybody would want to invest, the more the merrier, we will say that we do have a very particular, unique expertise, as well as the alumni network that frankly is not available to other sources. So I have, as I said, I'm aware of it. We haven't done a formal benchmarking analysis, but I'm confident that our program is addressing the needs of the future and provides not only the technical learning expertise, but also the community and networking support that our alumni leverage for the rest of their careers. I hope that answers your question.
And so if you are wondering who, if you are the nominee, you're looking to apply, but know that someone does this on behalf of your company, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to perhaps your HR or your diversity and inclusion office to see who is a point of contact. Each company usually has a point of contact. If you are a new company, let's connect and let's see how we can get your 3 nominations in by September 30th. And so I definitely encourage you to reach out to your company and see who your POC is, because that's also important. But yeah, please, by September 30th.
Great. Thank you. So with that, I think we'll close a little bit early. Again, if you have any other questions, feel free to email us at yhca@hacr.org. And we look forward to receiving not just your questions, but most importantly, your nominations. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to working with you on a successful program next year.